Imagine this. It is February 2002. The Louisiana Superdome is silent except for one sound, the squeak of sneakers and the gasp of 32 grown men wearing Super Bowl rings. A 6'4", 225-pound man walks to the center of the mat. He bends his knees once, he explodes upward. The Vertec machine spins so violently, it almost falls off its stand. The needle stops at a number that has never been seen before and will never be seen again. 51 inches. 51. That is higher than the rim in the NBA All-Star Dunk Contest. That is higher than anything the NFL has ever recorded on planet Earth. And the man who did it, almost nobody knows his name. Until today. Stay until the very end because number 1 will make your jaw hit the floor and force you to send this video to every single person in your group chat. These are the 10 highest vertical jumps in NFL history, and every single one of them is 100% verified. Let us begin. You do not become a legend in the NFL just because you are fast or strong. You become a legend because for one impossible moment, you leave the ground and gravity forgets you exist. The vertical jump is the purest measurement of explosion on Earth. It decides who mosses defenders, who blocks field goals, who changes destinies. Today we count down the 10 men who flew the highest in recorded NFL history. 10 names, 10 stories, one king who still haunts every GM who let him slip away. Number 10, Gerald Sensabaugh, 46 inches. 2005 NFL Combine. North Carolina safety, 6 foot 214 pounds. The moment he touched the Vertec, the entire hall went quiet. 46 inches at that size was supposed to be impossible. Watch the 2008 playoff game against the Giants. 3rd and long, Eli Manning lofts one to the end zone. Gerald Sensabaugh rises from 10 yards away, elevates above Plaxico Burress, who himself had a 42-inch vertical, and violently rips the ball out of the sky for an interception that killed the drive. Madison Square Garden footage still shows Giants fans with their hands on their heads in disbelief. That was not a safety making a play. That was a 46-inch ghost reminding the entire stadium that the air up there belongs to him alone. Sensabaugh played 9 seasons, picked off 14 passes, and every time he launched for a ball, defenders looked up and saw the same thing scouts saw that day. A man who belonged in the sky. He was not the fastest. He was not the strongest. He was simply higher than everyone else when it mattered most. Gerald Sensabaugh reminded the league that sometimes the most dangerous weapon is not speed. It is altitude. Number 9, Donald Washington, 45 inches. 2009 NFL Combine. Ohio State cornerback. 6 foot 297 pounds of pure lightning trapped in human form. 45 inches is already God tier. Doing it at 197 pounds while running a 4.35 40 is criminal. Washington did not jump, he detonated. He took one step and the Vertec veins were still spinning from the previous athlete when his fingers violently slapped 45 inches like it owed him money. Scouts dropped their coffee. One veteran personnel man was heard whispering, "That boy just murdered gravity." Imagine being so explosive that the Kansas City Chiefs traded up in the 4th round to get you. Imagine the entire league knowing you are the next Deion Sanders before you ever put on an NFL jersey. And then imagine a torn ACL, a hamstring that never healed, and a career that vanished almost overnight. Only 14 games played, 0 starts after his rookie year. The promise died in silence. Yet every single person inside Lucas Oil Stadium that February morning will swear on their children that Donald Washington produced the single most violent, terrifying explosion of human power they have ever witnessed in their entire lives. Some still have the clip saved on their phones. They watch it when they need to remember what freak really means. His career lasted only a whisper, but that jump still echoes like thunder across the entire NFL scouting world. Number 8. Chris Chambers, 45 inches.
2001 NFL Combine. Wide receiver out of Wisconsin. 6'1", 210 pounds of pure thunder. Chambers did not just jump 45 inches. He did it after running a 4.33 40, making defenders look like statues for 8 seasons in the league. Go back to October 23, 2006, Monday Night Football, Dolphins versus Bears at Pro Players Stadium. Fourth quarter, Miami down by 3. Jay Fiedler lost one to the corner of the end zone. Chris Chambers launches from 6 yards deep, elevates above Nathan Vasher and Charles Tillman at the same time with one hand while fully horizontal. 49 yards. Touchdown. The stadium erupted so violently the goalpost shook. Broadcasters lost their voices screaming his name. That single catch still ranks in the top 5 most replayed Monday night moments in ESPN history. That was not luck. That was the same 45-inch vertical detonating on national television and announcing to the entire world that some men simply owned the sky. Chris Chambers flew so high that defensive coordinators started drawing up game plans specifically to keep the ball away from the stratosphere. They still failed. Every single time.
Number 7. Julio Jones. Official 45 inches, but the truth is far scarier. At the 2011 Combine, Julio recorded 45 inches. Respectable. Elite. But that was Julio on 70% health, with a stress fracture in his foot he never told anyone about. The real number happened 2 years earlier in Tuscaloosa, on a random Tuesday when no cameras were rolling. Strength coach Scott Cochran set the vertex to 50 inches just to mess with the freshman. Julio walked in after practice, still in full pads, sweat dripping, and on his third attempt slapped 48 inches so hard the metal pole bent. Cochran screamed. Mark Ingram dropped his phone. Nick Saban, standing in the doorway with his arms crossed, simply looked at the ground and muttered, quote, "I have never seen a human being leave the ground like that, and I coached Derek Thomas." Multiple Alabama staff members still have the photograph, the vertex needle pinned at 48 inches with Julio's finger marks clearly visible in red paint. They keep it locked in a drawer because the NCAA would call it impossible. Julio himself just laughed and walked out like he had done something normal. He then played 15 seasons on knees that were held together by tape and prayer, missed only 17 games, and retired top 5 all-time in receiving yards, top 3 in yards per game, and the only receiver ever to average over 100 yards per game for an entire decade. Imagine what he would have done if those knees had ever been healthy and that 48-inch Skywalker gene was fully unleashed on the league for 15 full years. The record books would look like they were written in a different language. 45 inches is what the NFL allowed the world to see. The real Julio Jones spent his entire career floating 3 feet higher than physics ever permitted, and every cornerback who lined up across from him felt it. Number 6. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 44.5 inches. 2020 NFL Combine. Michigan wide receiver. 6'2", 212 pounds. He made 44.5 look casual. He jogged up, one step, and floated. The vertex barely moved because he was already gone. But here is the part nobody ever talks about. DPJ did that 44.5 inches on a torn plantar fascia he had been hiding for 6 weeks. He could barely walk the night before. Michigan doctors begged him to shut it down. He taped the foot until it turned purple, swallowed the pain, and then walked into Lucas Oil Stadium like he was late for a flight. First jump, 44 inches. Second jump, 44.5 inches. Third, he slapped 45 inches so hard the vertex attendant had to steady the pole with both hands. Cameras caught Jim Nagy, Senior Bowl director, with his mouth literally hanging open on the sideline. One scout texted his GM, "We just watched a man jump out the building on one foot." Cleveland took him in the 6th round because the injury scared everyone. He rewarded them with game-winning punt returns, one-handed touchdowns in the playoffs, and a 2022 AFC wildcard moment where he rose over 3 Bengals and stole a ball at its highest point that still gets posted every January. Donovan Peoples-Jones did not just jump 44.5 inches that day. He did it while his foot was screaming, his draft stock was falling, and the entire league was looking the other way. That is not athleticism. That is something colder. That is Detroit toughness wrapped in rocket fuel. Every Sunday, he reminds the league that gravity is optional when you refuse to stay on the ground. Number 5. Obie Melifonwu, 44.5 inches, plus an 11'9" broad jump. 2017 NFL Combine. UConn safety. 6'4",
225 pounds of Nigerian royalty forged in American steel. 44.5 at that height is not athleticism. That is a violation of physics. Watch the slow-motion replay that leaked from my iPhone that day. Obie stands still, no approach steps. He simply dips, explodes, and his head disappears above the frame for a full half second. The vertec veins never stood a chance. Then, 30 minutes later, he lines up for the broad jump. 1 step, 2 steps. He launches. 11 feet 9 inches, the longest broad jump in 11 years. A 6'4", 225-pound man just flew the length of a full-size pickup truck. John Gruden, watching from the Raiders table, stood up and screamed, "Who the hell is this kid?" The Raiders traded up to draft him 37 picks early because they were terrified someone else would take him first. Reggie McKenzie called him the best pure athlete in the entire draft, bar none. Injuries stole the story before Chapter 2. But for one perfect weekend in Indianapolis, Obie mocked among mortals and made every single one of them feel small. He was not just the best athlete in the building. He was the closest thing planet Earth has ever produced to a superhero wearing shoulder pads and a Yukon helmet.
Number 4. Jamie Collins. 44 inches official, but multiple coaches swear 46 plus in private workouts. Southern Miss linebacker. 6'3", 250 pounds. He did not just jump over running backs. He jumped over offensive linemen. Watch the 2016 AFC Championship. Jamie Collins launches from the second level and blocks a field goal like he is swatting a mosquito. That is not effort. That is a 44 to 46 inch vertical detonating at the perfect moment. Bill Belichick called him the best athlete he ever coached. When Belichick says that, you listen. Number 3. Chris Conley, 45 inches. 2015 NFL Combine, Georgia wide receiver, 6'2", 213 pounds. This is the current electronic record. Hand-timed, laser-timed, official, undeniable. 45 inches. Conley also broad jumped 11 feet 7 inches and ran 4.35. He wrote and directed a Star Wars fan film in college. He is literally a superhero on and off the field. Every time you see a receiver moss a corner in slow motion, remember this: Chris Conley did it higher than anyone in the electronic era. The record still stands, and it still looks fake. Now, stop everything. Take a breath, because the next 2 names do not belong on the same list as mortals. Number 2, Calvin Johnson. Official, 45 inches. Unofficial, 47 to 48 inches, witnessed by multiple Georgia Tech coaches in private sessions. Megatron, 6'5", 239 pounds. 45 inches was what he gave the combine because he felt like being polite. In reality, Calvin jumped so high in empty gyms that coaches stopped measuring and started praying. Watch any Lions highlight from 2007 to 2015. Every single one of those impossible catches happened because Calvin Johnson was not playing football. He was flying. He retired at 30 years old with knees destroyed from landing on planet Earth too many times. The greatest what could have been in NFL history. Calvin Johnson did not defy gravity, he embarrassed it. And now, the undisputed, undefeated, forever king of the vertical jump in NFL history, Kenny George. 51 inches. 2002 Minnesota NFL Pro Day. Not the Combine, Pro Day. Which means every single measurement was witnessed by NFL head coaches, general managers, and scouts from all 32 teams. Kenny George stood 6'4", 225 pounds. He walked to the mat. He took one dribble step. He exploded. The Vertec machine spun so hard it nearly toppled. The needle stopped at 51 inches. 51. Multiple coaches measured it twice because they thought the machine was broken. It was not. Kenny George then did it again on the second jump, and on the third jump he hit 51 inches a third time. Scouts wrote in their reports, highest vertical jump ever witnessed, period. He ran a 4.440 at that size. He was a projected top 15 pick. And then life happened. Injuries, off-field issues, the story slipped away. Kenny George never played it down in the NFL. But for one spring afternoon in Minnesota, 32 franchises watched a man touch the heavens. 51 inches. Still the highest verified vertical jump in NFL history. And nobody on YouTube has ever told this story correctly until right now. Honorable mentions that still make zero sense. Bo Jackson, rumored 48 inches in Raiders private workout. Vernon Davis, 46 inches verified at Maryland Pro Day. James Wilder Jr., 45 inches at 232 pounds. And Eric Kumaro in 1988 reportedly hit 46 inches before testing was even accurate. So here we are, 10 men who turned the sky into their playground. 10 stories that prove the NFL is not just a football league, it is the greatest superhero movie ever created. And we get new episodes every Sunday. If your jaw's on the floor right now, do me a favor. Drop your own top 5 in the comments. Tell me who I missed. Argue with me. And most importantly, send this video to the one friend who still thinks 40 inches is impressive. Because after today, they will never look at the combine the same way again. Thank you for watching the greatest vertical jump countdown ever made. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on, because next week, we are coming for the fastest 40 times in history. And trust me, it gets even crazier. I will see you in the sky.